In my previous report, I didn't have time to cover Canada's real estate market as well as the inflation report that came out from Statistics Canada today. If you didn't watch my other report, I covered Pierre Poilievre got reelected. He's back. He's going to be back in the House of Commons on September 15th, as well as our forests in Canada are used as toxic dumping grounds. It's a big story, and hopefully there's going to be change on that. Let's look at Canada's inflation rate, which dropped down to 1.7% from 1.9%. They're all jumping for joy, saying the Bank of Canada is going to be able to cut interest rates by at least 0.25%. However, if you live in a home or you're going to go buy food, those items are still going up in Canada. The only reason that we had inflation come down is because of the removal of the consumer carbon tax. Let's get into this report. Things are getting so bad in Canada's housing market that you see reports like this. This is all over mainstream media today. Renting versus buying. Is renting for life really that bad? Personally, I would never want to rent for life. You want to own something so that when you retire, you could use your house and be able to pay for your lifestyle. If you rented your entire life, that's okay too. You might have been able to save, but based on rental rates and the way that things are going, 50% of your income, and there's a report I'm going to show you, is going towards your rental rate, meaning you have nothing left after you pay your rent. Here's a report. Half of young Canadians spend more than 50% of their income on rent. So yeah, it's not a good thing if you're putting 50% or more towards your rental payments. That means your life when you're older, you will never retire in your entire life. Let's take a look at this BYV report because BYV is usually a pretty balanced report. Renting versus buying. Is renting for life really that bad? If we look down here, I've highlighted a few sections. If you're going to rent the average one-bedroom suite in the city of Vancouver, it's currently at $2,800. The lifetime renter would spend at least $1.3 million by the time they're age 65, and that does not account for rent increases or inflation. So it will be way above that amount, and you'll have nothing to show for it in the end. More than 1/3 of Canadians report having less than $5,000 in savings, and those who own a home are increasingly relying on their home equity to fund their retirement. And I said that before. When does it make sense to rent over buying? Well, the problem is rent is super expensive now, unless rental rates come down significantly. If you're only spending 1/3 of your income on rental rates, then it might make sense. But when you're spending over 50% of your income for rental rates, it makes absolutely zero sense. And if you own your property, you build equity over time. So it's totally up to you. But personally, I would try to get out of rental unless it's super cheap, which it's not. Now let's take a look at the real estate market specifically because we got new information. The Canadian real estate prices fall faster as sales rise within listings. Canadian real estate market shows minor signs of improvement, but it may just be noise. The Canadian Real Estate Association data shows composite home sales improved in July, hitting a 4-year high for the month. Despite rising sales, a wall of inventory helped to push prices down sharply for the month. Home prices fall to the lowest level in over 4 years as monthly drops accelerate. Check out the real estate prices for the last 4 years. So we're down. We are below $700,000 for the composite price across Canada. The last time we were at this level was March of 2021. Where are we going? Well, we could easily see things go down to the 500 range. Imagine that in 2019. We don't know where things are going to go, but if interest rates don't fall, it's only going to go down from here because of the uncertainty. And that's what people don't understand. With the trade uncertainty with the United States and people are losing their jobs, real estate is not on people's radars right now. Now let's take a look at home sales. Canadian real estate sales hit 4-year high, remains below 2019. But check out, in 2019, there was close to 48,000 sales, 63.5 thousand in 2020, and 53.8 thousand. Then in 2022, when interest rates started rising at the fastest pace in history, 37, 38,000, 41,000, 43,000, and now we're at 46,000 in 2025. We haven't seen this many listings on this chart going back to 2007. We're close to 89,000 new listings. It's actually hard to understand, but if we look across, we have never been this high. When you have record amount of listings, even if the sales are at a 4-year high, which is below 2020, 2019, and 2021, well, we're going to see prices continue to come down in Canada. I wonder how Gregor Robinson is doing, because he was elected to protect the value of homes across Canada. The elbows up retirees that are living off of their equity of their homes are seeing their equity evaporate. Remember this?
We've got to create some incentives and opportunities for people to get into the market. We got to make sure that people's assets are obviously protected, and that's the market housing. But
yeah. Well, I don't know if they're protected right now. We actually haven't heard from Gregor Robinson in some time. He's on that wonderful summer holidays with the rest of the Liberals. Here's a chart that shows the average residential home prices in Canada provided by the Canadian Real Estate Association. As you can see, we reached a plateau, I believe, and I'm going to show you what this chart actually looks like. Let's take a look at flag types. It's none of the top section. And the reason is that we're not going upwards. We're actually in the downward trend. So I believe we are in the bearish pendant or bearish wedge flag in Canada. We have yet to see the break downwards. The way that this is going to happen is if we continue to see massive job layoffs. Because once people lose their jobs, they're going to be forced to sell and sell at a cheaper price. Many Canadians right now have their properties listed. We saw a record amount of listings, and people don't want to sell for less than what they believe the price is. But when people start losing their jobs, that's when we see the drop down. I like to look at market specific. Vancouver housing market for the month of July was just released. Everything is down on an annual basis between 1 and 9.5%. There are 3 markets month over month that are up: North Delta, Burnaby East, and New Westminster. I wouldn't look too deep into this because they're only up 0.7 and 0.8. Summer months are usually the busiest time because people want to move when their kids are not in school. But once we start into the fall, we're really going to see where this market is going. Now, let's take a look at the Canadian economy. We're at Statistics Canada. Today, we got the consumer price report for the month of July. The CPI has decreased to 1.7 from 1.9% in June. July is down. But the only reason we're down is because of a slowdown in CPI from falling gasoline prices, down 16.1% year over year, following a 13.4% decline in the month of June. Without gasoline, we take that out, CPI rose 2.5% in July, matching increases in May and in June. So take a look at this. Food purchased in stores, 3.4%. Everything is up. So if you're living in Canada and you don't need to eat and you don't need shelter, check out Shelter. Shelter's up 3%. If you don't need food and shelter, you're doing pretty good in Canada. But if you just stop eating and stop sleeping in a home, we're doing great. And check out Transportation's down 1.5% over the course of 12 months. So I want to take a look at this chart. So the light blue is excluding gasoline, and you can see it's way above the 2%. It's close to 3%. And you can see CPI, including gasoline, it's down to 1.7%. But check it out. Since the month of January 2025, 1.7%. So CPI used to be, excluding gasoline, was actually below CPI, including gasoline. But since then, February 2.6, we're basically stuck at 2.5% since the beginning of this year. That's well above the Bank of Canada's target of 2%. So is the Bank of Canada going to cut more than 0.25 in September? Based on this, they don't have much room, Canada. Price increases in 7 major components in July. 7 major components. It's all components. The prices are going up. Before, clothing and footwear last year and the last few years, they were actually going down. Now they're going up. The only thing bringing things down is transportation, which is the removal of the consumer carbon tax. But everything else is going up. Oh, and if the Bank of Canada does decide to cut interest rates aggressively, the value of the Canadian dollar is going to go down. And that means inflation will be going up. And the lower gasoline prices are not going to save us from inflation getting out of hand. Here are the gasoline prices that continue to decline. This is the only thing that's saving us right now, Canada. Can you believe it? Gasoline is the only thing that's keeping a lid on our inflation. But it's not going to be able to save us forever. Eventually, the 12-month moving average will be gone. This is the last chart I'm going to show you. The price of growth of food purchased from stores exceeds headline inflation for the last 6 months. I don't know why it says the last 6 months. If you look since 2022, food purchase in stores has been out of control, and now it's becoming out of control again. And we all know it's because of retaliatory tariffs. We're getting tariffs on all sorts of stuff, including food that's getting shipped in from the United States. Food is definitely becoming unaffordable. If you go and try to buy some coffee, it's like $35 at Costco for what used to be $15 to $20. Anyway, the trend is not our friend on this one. Our food prices at stores continues to accelerate beyond the 2%. We're above 3% right now. All right, one more, because we got the Food Professor, which published this, all items versus food inflation from August 2023 to today. So the last 3 years. As you can see, the only time, real time, that the red line, which is food, was below the blue line when they did the junk food tax holiday. But as soon as they removed it, prices just exploded. And check it out, we're well above, and the trend is going up, not down. That's it for today's report. This was a shorter report because I want to make sure that you guys saw a little bit of the real estate market as well as our inflation report in Canada. Things are not looking good for inflation. When you see food and shelter continue to go up, and the only thing bringing things down is the price of gasoline because of the removal of the carbon tax, we're still paying the industrial carbon tax. The Liberals have zero solutions for us. We have no trade deal with the United States. The rest of the world's looking at Canada. We're irrelevant, completely irrelevant. Nothing to look forward to except for Pierre Poilievre's back in the House of Commons, but he's not going to save anything. He's the opposition leader. We still have the reckless policies of the Liberals for the last decade. They offered us this Bill 5, which is going to get nothing built across this country. You know, how much pain do we need to go through before people actually wake up and realize that the reason that Canada is in decline is because of the Liberal government? I'm going to continue to provide all of you these epic reports. Make sure you leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I actually read most of the comments that you guys make. Even if there's 1,000, I'll try to read them all. I'll see you on the next report.